Hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Rich Eisen Show. Once again, here on Zoom as we're sheltering in place in the city of Los Angeles. It's a little bit of role reversal. Chris Brockman showing up in a collared shirt, and then me in a Hunters of People 2 t-shirt today.
Love it.
You figured you dress up a little bit for our
Well,
third?
yeah, I was watching back the videos from the last 2 days, and I noticed I went black T-shirt and hat on Monday. Then yesterday I went in the hoodie that I walked the dog in. So I figured I'd class it up a little bit on a Wednesday.
Okay. Classy Wednesday. I just figured, you know what? Everybody could use a laugh these days, and that's what this show's for. As you know, we're a sports and entertainment show and a life show, and the number of people that have reached out to us talking about how what we're doing is a needed distraction, and that means a lot to us. And right now we're wondering maybe we get back in studio next week. We're kind of going back and forth about that. If everybody's happy and healthy and hale and hearty and all of that stuff, we're going through this conversation because a lot of folks are missing us live on YouTube, and we appreciate that immensely. But I think we could use a laugh, which is why, we're doing Zoom. We could not do what we're going to be doing on this show if we were in studio, which is two guys at once, side by side. And the two guys being two guys that have really been very entertaining on Twitter lately, doing their thing, which is being absolutely hilarious by being other people and sounding like other people. And so Frank Caliendo, as you know, is one of my favorite guests that we've had on this program.
Of course.
So Frank's join us, and so is Joey Mulinaro, who has just burst onto the social media scene in such a way that the former Pat McAfee intern for when McAfee was at Barstool has now been hired by Barstool. And so the two of them have been going back and forth on Twitter of late. So I'm like, you know what? Let's get them both together and let's have a laugh. Let's have a good time. So
yeah, this is the social distancing distraction friendship that I think at least the sports world has needed. Like these two guys having this kinship on Twitter, going back and forth, doing their impressions, reading tweets as other people. I can't get enough of this content, and it's great to see that everyone else feels the same way. Like their views on their videos are through the roof, and it's so awesome. We're going to have them both today.
Yeah, we're going to have them both today. In the meantime, part of the reason why I'm also wearing this t-shirt is what's going on right now in our living room is what we're trying to do, keep it light for our three kids. We screen mirrored from Susie's Instagram feed a live dance party workout with a guy named Ryan Harrington. And I just did some dancing, we're trying to, so instead of hearing the noise from upstairs that you heard during
it's now this way.
Oh
my God! By the way, I know. You trained, you worked hard for the 40 this year.
Yeah,
you had some plantar fasciitis. I know you've been dealing with a little flexor in the wrist thing with the tennis going on. I don't need any more injuries out of you, especially coming from the dance party thing. Like, we don't need that.
Well, what I'm just saying is I'm limber. I'm ready to laugh. I'm ready to have a good time. Before we get to those guys, let's review the Bruce Arians conversation that we had yesterday, and the fact that him calling two teams for Jameis to say you're going to get the hardest working guy that you can get, and then him saying one team said that they thanks but we're not interested, and another team saying appreciate the call. A lot of people picked up on that, and look, the other thing that they picked up on was Arians revealing the pecking order, Brady, then Bridgewater, then Jameis. And so another reason why it was so huge for Brady to choose the Bucs is Bridgewater was walking out the door to Carolina. Could you imagine if they missed on Brady and missed on their second choice because Brady and them couldn't come to terms, or Brady chose somewhere else, and Bridgewater, instead of showing up in Tampa, shows up in their division? I mean, that would have been absolutely huge. And then the question is now, where does Jameis go? And a lot of folks are also talking about Cam today, who is now getting set to knock on any door. And I think the Chargers should do it. Sitting out here in Los Angeles as we're looking for anything to break through in the sports world that I guess is not the Rams logo, which was an interesting choice of their new logo.
Indeed, very interesting.
Do you want to leave it at that as a season ticket holder?
As a season ticket holder, let's just move on.
Move on. It did look like a logo straight out of Any Given Sunday, like a movie football logo, right? Like something out of the Sharks, for instance. But anyway, I think the Chargers should absolutely get on Cam.
I think the Chargers should get on either of these guys. I think Jameis has proven that if he cuts down on the turnovers, he's an elite quarterback in this league. The dude led the league in passing yards last year. And I think we really forget that. And he played the last 2 weeks with a broken thumb. Like, he's a gamer. He has won on the big stage, of course, Heisman Trophy winner, national champion. I think if he got into a spot that can benefit him, with the right weapons, with the right coaching, in the right division, this dude can be a superstar in this league. It's just where.
I agree. The only issue is if the Chargers want to get their rookie quarterback, then what do? You already got your veteran right there. They're just going to stay the course. That's why I'm thinking Jacksonville might be the spot, man, for either one of these guys. What are they going to do? Again, I keep coming back to the fact that when we were watching Gardner Minshew and we were watching him in London calling that game, and then seeing him over the extended 16 weeks of the season, maybe he can work on his arm strength. Maybe he can get that part of his game going, be more accurate, be more than just a Gardner Minshew time type guy where, right. The clock chimes Gardner Minshew midnight with 6 minutes to go and he pulls it out of his mustache or his orifice or whatever he's got going on. It's just fascinating to me. It really is to see that a guy 5,000 yards, the passing yards leader and interceptions leader of the previous year, and a former Super Bowl quarterback and MVP of the league and number one overall draft choice, 2 number one overall draft choices are sitting out there for a team to get. And I'm just wondering, is the veteran quarterback market now suddenly glutted to the point where it's like the running back market in the NFL, where you're getting somebody on the cheap, which, by the way, 1 year for $25 million, Phillip Rivers is. I mean, when you're looking at what quarterbacks are costing in this league today, Garoppolo is cheap. You just looked at Kirk Cousins making $33 million a year. Can you sign Cam for 1 year and 15? Can you do that for Jameis and get him on your team and see what he's like? That's what Arian said. Just get him on your team. He's a hardworking guy. And 2 teams essentially said thanks, but no thanks, and also thank you. Like, okay, thanks for the call.
Yeah.
Now, thanks for the call might not mean they're not interested. They just don't want to show their hand,
I also think, when we talked about it the last couple of days, the biggest X factor in all of this is Bill Belichick. What are the Patriots going to do? Are they really going to go into the season with Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer? No, that seems unlikely.
I think they're sitting back, and again, like I said, they're waiting to see how everybody else's roster fills out. It's not like you're going to have an off-season workout program in the middle of April that you need to get somebody in right now. It's not like that. I mean, the whole universe is off its axis outside of our Zoom, as we all know, which is part of the reason why we're going to have Joey Mulinaro and Frank Caliendo call in, and then you're going to join with. After that, we'll do a news segment because there is some baseball news in the world.
Yeah, I want to talk about that with you. It's kind of interesting.
And we go down that wormhole because I have no idea when baseball is going to be back, how it can be back, what they can do, and so many players, as you can see, are going like, screw it. Well, let's get Tommy John surgery right now. Like so many.
Seems like it's kind of the move. I mean, think about 3 absolute superstar pitchers are getting Tommy John, Luis Severino, Chris Sale, and then Noah Syndergaard. The news yesterday. It's just unbelievable.
It's not. Is it like they're throwing on the side and then all of a sudden like they're feeling something in their throwing arm, or they're like, you know what, let's just do it now because 2020 might be a total washout because of everything going on in the world.
Right.
Exhale. Let's have some fun.
Exhale. Let's laugh. We both need it. That's for sure.
All right. Let's get those guys here next on the Rich Eisen Show.
Let me
As promised, there they are. That's Frank Caliendo adjusting his camera. And for those who are watching right now on this edited version of the Rich Eisen show on Zoom, this is take 3, the third take of Joey Mulinaro and Frank Caliendo trying to get this thing done. Because Frank's phone is on the precipice of what is your phone resting on right now, Frank?
My wife's holding it. That's
that's an odd tripod. I'm gonna be very honest with you.
No. She's my wife has a tail, so she actually is a tripod. She's a little shaky.
Okay, very good. And Joey, you've just got yourself a laptop showing off your undisclosed location, man cave, and your new Barstool hat. Looks like.
That's right. Yeah, I'm good. I went with the higher grade laptop here because I didn't want to be the first guy, the new guy messing things up. Frank's a vet, so Frank can, he can do all this all he wants.
Okay.
But
otherwise, it would be a rookie mistake. Otherwise, so is that issued straight from Portnoy when you get hired? Is that part of like the hiring package? The hat, Joey?
The hat? Yeah, actually. So the CEO sent it to me because in my video that you so kindly were a part of,
yes,
I had to just print off this giant Barstool logo and tape it to the front of a hat. And she was like, "Hey, could have sent you a real hat." And I was like, "Yeah, go ahead." So they sent me a nice little care package.
Okay, all right. And Frank, where's your hat?
Well, I have plenty of them, but I got one of these right here, little FFCA man, ready to go. Come on, man. He might be a bar stool, but I'm a bar counter, man. I'll tell you.
That is a Gruden-issued Fired Football Coaches Association. That's what he's got going on. That's what he
backwards hat kind of guy now.
Backwards visor kind of guy, man.
Dude, Frank, Gruden did his Fired Football Coaches Association. He had his office next to a Publix in Tampa. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever go to the FFCA? Did you ever?
I've been by the FFCA at it's this little strip mall right off like the freeway. But then they rebuilt the studio in Orlando at the Disney complex thing just to make it look exact. Can I say one thing? I want to go back for a second, not to where I was dropping the phone or just appreciating you, but I worked at Fox for 9 years.
Yeah.
And I was at ESPN for I'm not sure how long. I never got a free hat from anybody. So, Joey, you're already knocking out of the park, not just on social media, but on headwear.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, shout out to them as well. This laptop, courtesy of them. So first week there, bam.
What else is in the room that's from Barstool other than you with the hat and the laptop, Joey? I mean, what else you got?
That's about it. Like I said, I'm in my Steelers man cave, and Rich, I have a little surprise for you here. I want to throw it off. This is something that I just remembered right before it came on. I think all you guys are going to really get a kick out of this. This is a photo of Rich Eisen, fully haired Rich Eisen. Look at that. I'm trying to get as close as I can.
Let me see if I can.
A little buzz cut. It's like some Buzz Lightyear stuff. And then I have that we don't just randomly print off pictures of you, Rich. Don't worry. This is a autograph that I got back in 2005.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not. It says to Joey, and you signed it, Rich Eisen. We didn't actually meet. My dad's best friend was at, I think, a Super Bowl event or something.
Okay.
And you were there, and he brought me back. I have like a Brady Quinn one. I have a Drew Brees one. And then he brought me back a photo of Rich Eisen. And so this was up in my basement and in our man cave. And here we are today. So we've come full circle.
Rich, I don't mean to interrupt Joey because that's really great. And there's no way to match Joey on the internet because he's the most unprecedented human being I've ever seen on the internet. He's unbelievable. But I have what you're going to look like in the future, an autograph from Conrad Bain. Conrad Bain. This is what you'll eventually look like. There's Arnold and Willis.
Yeah.
You didn't know this, but you're going to be eventually adopting a couple of children after there's an issue with your maid.
Yeah, hold that up. Hold it up one more time because we got the before and the later and the current right here.
2005 Rich and 2045 Rich right there.
I got to ask, because it's my job to ask follow-up questions, Frank. Why do you have a photograph of Conrad Bain, Todd Bridges? the great Gary Coleman in your office. What do you have, Frank?
Actually, this is the podcast studio, and that's my podcast partner, John Holmberg, actually brought that as a present because I had this, which he found pretty cool, which is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out as signed. And there I am in future Frank Caliendo.
Yeah, you got to move it over.
It's me, Caliendo.
Oh my God!
If you want anything else, here's Brockman, Bubo.
Awesome. I will take that.
Frank, why are the Antonio Brown socks behind you, man? I've noticed those. I can't do it.
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah. Holmberg is a huge Pittsburgh Steelers guy, so it's kind of a mock joke.
Oh,
I tell you what, man, I had a pair of socks from Antonio Brown too. They were frozen solid, man.
Perfect.
Oh man, Joey, have you run into anybody yet that you've imitated? Have you?
I've not.
You have
no.
Oh man, Frank, what's that going to be like for him? Do you think when he gets that moment where he just crosses paths with somebody he's?
I think it always depends on the person.
Yeah.
There are certain people that would not look me in the eye. It's incredible how ridiculous that was. I didn't want to say any names because that would be bad. We're just going to let it out there.
It would be horrible. It would be.
There are people that, as you know, are nice about it, but don't always, I know what you're doing. Then there's like Schefter, who's like, I know it, but it doesn't sound like it to me. But you can keep trying. That's helium, Adam Schefter. I think for Joey, I think it'll be. I mean, there's this thing about Joey Mulinaro that's, I don't know. It's such a quick rise up that people just want to jump on board. I think there's that element, and I was actually reluctant, right? I mean, I talked to Joey a bunch of times before. I'm like, I don't want to just be a pig jumping on this thing. And we talked a bunch of times, and then found the right thing to actually work together on, which was the Andrew Luck, Bill Belichick bit, and it's just kind of fun. But I'm trying to think.
That was funny, man.
Who are the people who you haven't met Orgeron yet?
No, I haven't met Orgeron. I'm friends with Nick Saban's daughter.
Okay.
Actually.
So is Nick aware? Is Nick aware of the Saban, Joey?
That's the thing. It's the most Nick Saban thing ever because I had her on my show and I asked her and she was like, I'm not really sure. And that's just so perfectly Saban because he's just like, I don't have time for any Twitter, okay? I'm trying to run a football program here. I got my Coke bottle. I got my Dasani bottle. I'm not going to answer any questions, all right? He doesn't know what Twitter is. He doesn't care.
Props. He came with his own props.
That is fantastic.
But no, I haven't met Orgeron. But the thing is Orgeron's on Twitter, and all he ever tweets is "Hold up, Tiger." But you got to think that at some point he has to have run on, into something. So
the Saban stuff, man, is what the first time that you caught my view on Twitter because Brockman and I have been all over the Saban press conference with the Coke bottle, and for some reason I don't know what it is, but Alabama football's podium is the most sensitive microphone. Anytime Saban at the side of the podium, you hear like a thud, right? I mean, like
right.
And then
that's all he does, right? Because he talks so much with his. That's all. The whole thing is just his hands. Everything he answers is like this. I don't know how the Coke bottle doesn't just fall off the damn mic, all right? It's all just eye and the hand motions like that. So.
And I would bet, Rich, that microphone is that sensitive because he doesn't really raise his voice ever. Even when Saban yells in those he gets excited, he's still almost at a whisper yell.
For sure. It's always just stern. It's never loud. It just gets more stern as the angrier he gets. So I always say, like, people who have asked, I always say, like, how I get into Saban is just imagining that, like, I had to go to Jiffy Lube or something, and they're like, yeah, your car's going to be fine, but we have to use this little tiny piece that's like $350 and got to do it today if you want to make your car better. So he's just like, I mean, whatever you got to do. I don't want to come in here and spend this kind of money. This isn't where I want to be. All right. But if you got to do that, that's fine.
Say my favorite, tell my favorite word. Joey knows my favorite Saban word.
Oh, it's 100% program. All right. I'm trying to run a football program. Not program, program. P-R-O-G-R-U-M.
Why is that your favorite word?
I don't know. It's one of those links. You find those links in impressions where if you watch even the evolution of Joey doing the Nick Saban impression, it gets better and better and better. I mean, the first one is great, but then you look at it now and you go, I mean, that was for me 20 years ago with a Madden or something. Almost any impression you do, they just get better and better and better. And that's one of those words that at the beginning, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, that's good. That's good. And it's you find that word, everything, and that might not have been it for him. You can talk to that, Joey, but you find a word or a phrase, a ramp up, and then the rest of it starts to flow, and then the rest of it becomes the same as those phrases or that word. And sometimes they'll go off on their own tangents. When I was working on an Orgeron, which I kind of gave up on after seeing Joey do it, just because it kind of became one of his things, was every time we tried to do Ed Orgeron, like on the podcast or something, we like talk about football, and it became, see, it's for cookie, it's good enough for me. So my Ed Orgeron is just Cookie Monster, and the Google, oh, that's for Go Tigers, Go Tigers. I wish I had a Cookie Monster here.
But that's the thing too, Frank, is that like people will message me, as I'm sure they do to you, like people will message me on Twitter or whatever and be like, you got to do a Trump, you got to do a Gruden, you got to do a Jim Rome. I'm like, Gruden and Rome are Frank. That's your bread and butter. Like, I'm not hopping on those two, you know?
Yeah, and so it's a weird thing where you try to give that little bit, and Joey's really great about that too, which is another thing I like. So many people just steal on the internet, like they watch you do an impression and then they copy it, and that's a real, that's just what it is. And now people just show other people how to do impressions on their TikTok feeds in between, you know, and Trump, you know, it's, so you're watching that and you're going, well, you're kind of unlocking it for everybody, and then it makes, which is fine, but then everybody's doing it, and it's just kind of, you just kind of go, well, there's nothing interesting about this anymore, and you go away from it.
What's the word for Madden? By the way, the Madden Summerall stuff that you have been doing, Frank,
so good,
so friggin' funny, including the one where the guy was getting his ass cleaned out by a fire hydrant and used the word bidet. Literally had to stop what I was doing. I literally had to stop. Just hearing
I didn't even
Madden say the word bidet.
Bidet. That was the word that I keyed in on for Madden. Bidet. Because you know, I was over in France, in those European countries. This was before the coronavirus thing. And, 50, 60 years ago, we would get, I mean, you get there and there's one of those, it's like, hey, that's a nice toilet. And then, boom, it's a Bellagio fountain. So I don't like to do, like, you'd always have me do the Madden thing and stuff. I don't love, somebody says, do some John Madden. I was like, I've done it for so long. I don't really love doing it on camera because it is so old.
Right.
But for some reason with the voiceovers, I was just like, this is kind of like its own thing. And then you had the Pat Summerall along with John Madden. John, have you tried this bidet, Pat? You bet I have, John. Had to bring in that ambulance from Madden 86.
Have I ever told you the story that CBS Sports told me when I took the job for the U.S. Open? Did I ever tell that story? Brockman knows it very well.
Oh, I know it. It's my favorite.
So when I took a job doing the late night highlight show for the U.S. Open after I left SportsCenter. NFL Network hired me, and then CBS called me when I was on my honeymoon to see would I do the late night show that they shoehorned in between Letterman and Kilborn to date the era. Okay,
Kilby, yeah, you gotta love me.
I don't know. You
did one.
You did Kilborn?
Hey, Eisen, you'll get to your story, but first, breaking news. I love myself. Back to you.
He's a must follow on Instagram, by the way. Big one.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Just the most eccentric interesting Instagram feed out ever.
Agreed, Joey. You got to try. You got to check it out. It's Mr. Craig Kilborn. We had him on for a full hour. One back in September, right, Chris?
Yeah, September.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, to celebrate the ESPN anniversary that neither of us were invited to celebrate. At any rate,
hey, Eisen, I don't want to be a party pooper, but get back to the story.
So the story is this. The story is this. I get the job, and they tell me, the rules of doing tennis, because a couple of matches I was going to call. And they said 2 things is shut up during the action and read the card we give you when there's something for you to promote or read for the sponsor on the air. And I'm like, that's basic stuff. They're like, trust me, there's an issue sometimes. And I'm like, with who? And they said, well, when Summerall used to do the tennis, you remember it was Pat used to do US Open tennis. Pat, they would hand him the copy that you would read for the Goodyear blimp. Hey, in its 50th year, the Goodyear blimp is over Manhattan and it looks beautiful, and Goodyear, the tires are the best, whatever it is. And they're like supposed to read it. And I'm like, he didn't do it. And they're like, well, sometimes Pat would get lost and maybe, had a little bit of that. And so it would be the shot of the New York skyline, and he has to read all the copy, and all you hear is Manhattan. And that's it.
There it is.
So I got to do my play-by-play. They're like, okay, grab card 43. It's the Goodyear blimp shot. They show a shot of the skyline, and all I go is Manhattan. And they screamed curse words in my headset. Read the effing card. You're like, oh my God. There's my story. Summerall is just the all-time greatest when it comes to that.
Well, that old bit was that he never, and it fits like with that Manhattan thing, he didn't speak in sentences.
Yes.
It was just phrases. To the 20, to the 25. There's a man down.
And then he would pronounce the comma in Murder, She Wrote by pausing a very long time.
Murder, She Wrote.
That's right. Oh man!
By the way, there was on an NFL Network last night or the night before. People now text me or message me on Twitter and stuff when there's an old NFL game on, and it was Madden and Summerall doing Patriots Rams, and it was classic Pat Summerall, because younger people who hadn't really paid attention to that much were tweeting at me, and it was Warner, Holt, out of bounds. That was his play-by-play.
Oh man! So Joey, one of the things you did recently that I loved and I retweeted wasn't really an imitation of a specific person at all, but it was you coming back from a date and being interviewed in a closet for a press conference, where you were just like that nonchalant quarterback who says something without saying anything. Was that any specific quarterback you actually did have in mind right there, Joey? Where did that one come from?
Well, my mom is a huge Eli Manning fan. And Eli Manning has always been somebody to me who's been the king of, like you said, saying something without saying absolutely anything at all in the most dull way possible. I'd like to think I was a little bit cooler than Eli Manning. Maybe looked a little bit better than him. He's kind of goofy and kind of that like just dead face that he has on, you know what I mean?
Right.
So just a little bit of that as an inspiration. But no, I mean, you guys know, just being in locker rooms all the time and like you just have to sit there and, you have the people talk about this a little bit, and it's just, okay, all of a sudden they're talking about how the game plan didn't work, but it did work, and we'll draw it up again next week. And you're like, what am I going to use with that at all? So that's really what it was, just like taking that in real life, obviously, because I've been around it so much in sports, and let's make these parallels happen. And it worked.
The whole thing is just downright hilarious. So
thank you.
Rich, though that's not a direct like impression. Dana Carvey talks about this too, and he's explained it the best that I've heard, is that you do an impression of a non-famous person, and that's a character. You do impression of a famous person, and that's an impression. Now, the big difference between those is that you have to have a little more setup for the character who's the non-famous impression. Joey's really great at that, at immediately giving you the point of view of the person, so you go, oh God, I know exactly where this is going. But I mean, it's like when you would watch Cheers back in the day, and you know Cliff or Carla's going to say something, and then they say it, and you're like, that's exactly what they're supposed to say. How did I not think of that? Those are great moments. And that was one of the things when I talked to Joey, my grandson, all about.
I'll get a text like 3 times a week from Frank, by the way, that'll be like, how's the homework? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Am I supposed to be studying up on an impression? And it's just the next line. Oh, that's supposed to go to my son, which is
I do actually do send that happens because my son's Joey Caliendo. He's Joey Mulinaro, and I had to change him in my phone.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, I've texted him a few times with things that were supposed to go to my son.
He's like, you're being too loud up there. I'm like, where the hell are you, Frank? What are you talking about?
Yeah. That's because I was Belichick, and I have a listen. There's I have cameras all over your apartment. This is
knock that off in your living room.
Oh
Rich.
Man, that is so funny. So all right, let's get into a couple here, if you don't mind winding it up and letting it fly. So what's your favorite imitation you've been doing right now lately, Joey? Which one do you like to do the most? Because I don't want to just grab one that you're not. Is it Andrew Luck? Is it the latest one?
I mean, I always love that. What's interesting about, I was thinking one that I like to do too, and it's one that Frank obviously started, but then one that I've piggybacked off and has actually worked pretty well, is Mel Kiper.
Okay.
Because, you know, Frank does a lot with, you know what I mean, with that. Those two, obviously my college coaches a lot. I like poking fun at Cowherd with his analogies and everything a lot. I don't have a mess with, but I can kind of, you know, fake it.
All right. So then choose which one you want. And then Frank, if you want, I don't know, is it okay if
Let's do
Morgan
a
Freeman?
Luck again.
I'd like the two of you guys to go back and forth talking about what shows you're binging while you're sheltering in place right now. Okay. If you want to just choose, just go back and forth, have a conversation suggesting what the other one should watch. That's basically I kind of whose lining is this anyway. So would you do Morgan Freeman, or is that one that you're like, screw it, I don't want to do anymore?
I don't care, Sonny. We can pretty much do. I'll probably bounce in and out of 5 or 6 while we're doing this. Maybe Tony Stark will show up. That happens, you know. Let's go back and forth. Here, I've been binging. Hey, let me ask you this. I know this is a pretty good setup right here. Hey, has anybody done a Joe Exotic? Anyone out there? Anybody tried that? Joe, it's a setup.
Oh, Joe Exotic is just the Oklahoma version of a Mike Gundy out there. That's pretty popular right now. And you look at, you take Mike Gundy, you add a little bit of sass to him, then all of a sudden you got Joe Exotic talking about his Tiger Pups. You want to watch something pretty good, I say you come watch us on my farm.
Okay, now, do me a favor, bring it down, and it becomes Ed Orgeron. Down it, bring it.
One thing I certainly do like to watch is the Tigers. Not only on the football field, but that Tiger.
Pause. Bring it up. Joe Exotic.
See, I did a bit about this today between who's going to be the Tiger King, whether it's going to be Coach O or myself. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I consider myself the true Tiger King. But I got to tell you, the true Tiger King reigns in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with Joe Burrow and myself. Go Tigers.
I tell you what, man. Both those guys are exotic, and I got the same eyebrows as that guy, man. Joe Exotic, here we go.
Oh, Coach Gruden's entered the chat.
Very excited, man.
Very
Andrew,
excited about this one.
You still working on those math problems, man?
Yeah, just Spider 2Y banana day in and day out. I'll never forget, Coach. Spider 2Y. I'm teaching that to my daughter. She can already read, of course, because she's my daughter, and I went to Stanford.
I just thought of a new character, Joe Neurotic.
That's what I'm going to do. That's what my Joe Neurotic going to be. This guy right here, and I can't. Is the camera all right? Is everything okay? Okay.
And mine turns into Larry the Cable Guy.
That's what that's all about. Get her done.
Yeah, that's fine. That works. I see you got those Antonio Brown socks behind you. Good player. I think he's got a few marbles loose up top, if I would say. But I don't think this should hurt him to come back, per se. He's just kind of a wild guy.
I'll tell you what, Andrew. He was great when we could find him.
Yeah, it's kind of like Catch Me If You Can. I've been watching that a lot. A big Leo DiCaprio fan, but you couldn't catch him too well, could you, Coach?
Tell you what, how about this one? No, you could not catch him. You could only hope to contain him. Huh? How's that, man?
I've heard
how about
that.
this? Better Call Saul. You ever do that? Huh? You ever watch Better Call? You into Better Call Saul, man? You are, aren't you, Rich?
Oh, we're going Rich.
Oh, sorry. That wasn't set up for you. Rich.
Oh,
Rich,
yeah. No,
I thought Rich
yeah,
maybe
Coach,
wanted to be on his
I'm
own
sorry.
show.
No, I am. I am. Actually, I caught up on that last night. Just last night, Coach. I caught up on it. It's a slow burn, though. You know what I mean?
I love it. I walk around being Mike Ermichon. Okay. All right. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. We'll take care of it.
Very good.
Frank. Was this Gustavo Frank? Did he? That might be a little bit of a spoiler alert, man.
Oh.
You ever try that chicken, man? Stuff's good. You got to clean the fryer, though. Make sure you clean the fryer, man. Sweat it out. Back to you, Luck.
Oh, it's coming back to me. I was going into Saban, so I got the Coke bottle and the water here. I guess I can keep them here. If we,
oh, hold on, Tony Romo. Jim, you should have seen it coming. It's incredible. It's amazing. He's going into the Saban. If Caliendo screwed up, he wasn't watching the props. Get ready. He's doing his own thing. So here we go. Okay.
Oh, my God.
Right.
Wow.
How do you the Mike Ermitrout bobblehead, man? Jeez, what is that?
the collection.
Oh,
Here we go. Throw it over. Let's throw it over to Nick Saban. What's making him angry today?
Well, there's a lot of things making me angry because I'm quarantined in my house. I can't run on my football program. I'm trying to win another national championship. I got Ed Orgeron out here doing his media tour. Everybody's in love with Ed Orgeron. What about Uncle Nick? All right, Uncle Nick's been around for 10 plus years. I'm winning national championships all the time. I got a statue. I don't see a statue for that, man. I got time for it. So just quit asking.
And now I have to say, with no further ado, impromptu Stephen A. Smurf. And I understand this is Smurftastic. What in Smurfintosh Smurfation has happened to the Rich Eisen show today? This Zoom is Zoom Smurferific.
it's Stephen A. Smurf, everybody.
That's too good.
And I am completely, utterly, and smurfably deniable in every single situation.
Oh, my God. It's so funny. My wife, who knows Stephen A. very well, just walked down the hallway. She's just opened up the door and said, "What the hell is going on?" Which is why I'm like, it's Stephen A. Smurf, everybody. Of course it is.
Years ago, there was a transition time where Stephen A. had left
Sorry, I'm having
ESPN.
my Jets cup. Pardon me. Say that again.
He was over at Fox. Remember he had that show that was Frankly Speaking or something like that?
Yeah.
And then it went away, and he went over to Fox Sports for a little bit.
That's right.
And I saw him in an elevator, or right in an elevator, and he goes, "Do me a favor, Mr. Caliendo. All the impressions and impersonations you do, don't ever, ever do me."
Is that really what happened?
Yeah, I mean, he was semi-joking, but it was
Right.
But you just ran with it.
Yeah, he just looked at me and goes, "Do me a favor. Don't ever, ever do me." And he had somehow timed the elevator doors. There was another time that we were in LA. It was a Clippers game. I took my son, and in the elevator, it was Stephen A. incognito. He's just kind of sitting there with his head down a little bit, and he goes, "Frank." I was like, "Yeah, Frank." Like, "What?" "It's me. Oh, Stephen A." Like he was being quiet for the other people in the elevator.
Just said Stephen A. too. That's good.
I'm actually a spy. I'm in the middle of a covert operation. This is the level I actually speak at, and I'm worried about Russians. I'm taking it over.
I'll make it all fine. You ever see The Americans? That's me.
Never seen The Americans. Not a big fan of that one. I'm more of a movie guy. I like to go to the movies. Can't do it right now in the quarantine, but wife and I do sit down every night, order a pizza, maybe go to a local establishment, bring in a movie. See, that's my Kiper. Is that
It's not bad. That's really good, man.
Oh, he's very, does a tremendous job. He stresses movie. I'm more the guy who stresses Todd. Hey, maybe it's Mel and Kel Kiper. Hey, that's my brother Kel.
Or Hell, the guy who does all the he grades all the priests. That bit that I put out. You got Mel and Hell Kiper.
Oh my God! I think Chris Brockman. We're witnessing a little workshopping between these guys.
Yeah, I always wonder what the process is for you guys. Like, who's texting whom? Who's coming up with the ideas? Is it free flowing?
But between us, I mean, we kind of just throw things out to each other. I mean, not even. I guess just recently for some sketches and stuff, but we don't work on impressions together so much. John Holmberg, I do the podcast with Caliendo Cast, we do that constantly and go back and forth. And we had Kevin Pollak on a few weeks ago.
He's amazing.
And Kevin Pollak talked about he and Dana Carvey would do the same thing. So you go back and forth. We send. You got to go, Rich, because you've got that. I appreciate you being on kind of look.
No. Are you kidding? I don't want this to end. Are you freaking kidding me? This is the greatest thing ever. No.
But yeah, I think
just in the room. That's all.
I think one of the things Joey and I haven't really done that kind of a thing, but it's sometimes you'll do that, but it's more we go back and forth with, hey, what about this idea? So we don't step on each other a lot. So that's kind of, I think, more of the idea there.
And that's how the Kiper thing was birthed, because I knew it was one of his, and I messaged Frank and on Twitter, and that's where he was like, a lot of people just do kind of the one that I do, so send me yours. So I sent it to him, and then we had a call, and that's where it kind of came up with the idea of like, okay, like I said, I kind of focus more on like dragging out the word, whether a movie, whether a thing like that, and then yours is kind of the top.
Yeah, I said basically don't do Todd. That's because that's all. That's like doing not gonna die. That's the card thing. Right. Like you can't own. Like you can't really own an impression, especially in this day and age. But what you don't want somebody to do is take your version of the character, and that's the tough thing, because you'll see people. You can tell when an impression is quote unquote stolen, because they're just doing it. I had a guy go up before me on stage one time, 20 years ago, and he started doing his John Madden bit, and he started with, "Here's a guy." I'm like, that's my bit. Don't take the the actual bit. That's the thing. Like, and I come up with, I'm more into these, and it doesn't work as well on the internet, I found. But the stuff that used to work on sketch TV shows, which wasn't so much the dead-on impression or finding a little thing, it was finding a big thing. And that doesn't work as well on the internet to me. People will be patient and find that interesting moment or two that you find in the impression. If you're too big, they don't like it as much. And I'm trying to think of one of the ones we used to do. Will Sasso used to do it with Kenny Rogers. He'd be like, "I'm Kenny Rogers, and this is Jack." He turned into a complete character. Because it's Will, it would probably still work. But those things, people get mad at me when I do Madden going, they don't like that. They like the one that sounds like the actual sound. So it's a weird thing that the smaller video people are watching on these little handheld devices, as opposed to the bigger, medium-sized TVs. And it's a different way people look at stuff.
Well, let me tell you this, man. This has been a total blast. And one way, I guess, Joey, for you to inoculate yourself for having bits stolen is just to create a Smurf of that character. So if anybody busts out the Smurf, they know it's been totally stolen, So
like we settled with Cowherd. I'll work on that with Cowherd maybe and come up with somebody for it. But yeah.
Follow Joey Mulinaro on Twitter at Joey Mulinaro, at Frank Caliendo. This has been a blast, guys. Thanks for the laugh. We needed it. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Anything else today? And we'll be seeing you on Barstool, right, Joey? We'll see you
That's
on.
Right. Yeah, I'm fully there, as you can see. So I'm just pumping out stuff there when I can, and working with Frank a little bit too.
And check out the Caliendo cast as well, right, Frank? Correct.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want me to show you?
Man, normally, what I've done with my guests is say, "Show me something from your office," but you've done quite a bit. Look at that one right there.
See that?
That's the ball from Hard Knocks, right?
Nice, man.
Is that the Hard Knocks? I have a couple of them, Rich. Because every time I talk to the team, they win.
Look at
this is actually a real game. November 19th, 1955. That's when I was hanging a clock on my toilet. I slipped off, hit my head, and I came up with this. The flux capacitor, man.
Knock on wood if you're with me. Thanks, guys. That's Frank Caliendo, Joey Mulinaro here on the Rich Eisen Show. Well, that went as hoped and planned. That went well.
Yeah, it sure did. That was definitely the laugh that I needed today. Oh, my goodness.
That was amazing. All right, so before Del Tufo joins us for one last Del Tufo palate cleansed, what did Scott Boras posit today in the baseball world? What was that?
Yeah, so I was wondering, there's a bunch of random things trending as tends to happen. I was like, why is Scott Boras trending? So you click on it, and Scott Boras, of course, a super agent in Major League Baseball, pitching that the league can still have a 162-game schedule with the World Series taking place over Christmas.
Wow.
He thinks
at a neutral site where it would be, in a dome or something like that, or?
Yeah, this is what he said. He had a quote, "We have it all mapped out. It's workable. We've done climate studies, and in Southern California, the average temperature in December is 67 degrees, which is better than a late March and early April in most cities.
Right.
We have 11 stadiums that we could play postseason games in, and of course, a neutral site World Series."
Just like a Super Bowl. So interesting. And when does he say that the season would start?
Boras said that he believes a June start is, quote, well within the vision of what could be. He is submitting a June 1st start and a playoff run that goes between December 3rd and the 26th.
Man,
complete with wild card games, a 5-game division, and then 7-game championship.
I would love nothing more than to have a season where everything goes as planned in terms of a full schedule. I'd love nothing more than that. I just think June 1st is absolutely pie in the sky, as you read in this day and age of everything that's going on, that New York State might be cresting now, and other states will be cresting later. Any of those 11 sites that he thinks might be, geographically and weather or meteorologically sound would be
close enough.
Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, according to the LA Times, which published this article, I think yesterday, the author said there's a growing sense among baseball executives that the best case scenario for a season this year is an 81-game regular season that begins around July 1st,
right,
with still having the postseason in October.
Right, and then maybe we do some double headers, because that's fan friendly would be to just put as many games in one day as possible.
Yep.
But again, I don't know how large gatherings of people are going to happen by July. I would love it. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, obviously, knock on wood, but
amazing. That would be. I saw a video of kids getting baseballs autographed by major league stars. The MLB Twitter account sent it out, and other kids getting a baseball handed to them by Major League Baseball players. When there's a ball that's foul, and they walk over and give it to the kid, or they give it to an adult who gives it to a kid, and they're all happy and thrilled. And I see it, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, when can we get back to this? And I will never take it for granted ever again. And I like the fact that Scott's out there thinking, like, hey, we could still have a 162-game season, so there won't be any sort of record book asterisk, if you will. That was the coronavirus shortened season. I would love nothing more than that, but
yeah, major exhale, man. And like you said, it's kind of a bummer. I was walking around town the other day, and the Little League park in town, it was all roped off and police tape, and it was just sad and depressing to kind of see that's where we're at right now.
I know, but let's just, again, I saw the actor and singer Paul Williams, who may know them. You may know him most recently from Goliath, but of course, Paul Williams is the singer and actor that was in Smokey and the Bandit all those years. He sent out a great Instagram post saying that all the social distancing and people not being around and the streets being empty, he views that as a sign of love, that we're all together in something in a manner that we may never see again the rest of our lives. And I thought that was a very positive way of looking at so many things that are freaking people out right now. But again, I'm glad we got this laugh in today. And let's get Mike Del Tufo involved right now on that front. Okay, there's the man right now. How are you, Mikey?
I'm doing all right, Rich. How are you guys doing, Rich and Brockman?
We're hanging in here. We're hanging in here. Everybody, thank God, is still happy and healthy and whatever.
Yeah,
still doing well.
Man, we just had a great chat with Frank Caliendo and Joey Mulinaro. You'll love seeing that later. So let's just really get right to the meat and potatoes. What do you have there?
I have a couple items today, real quick.
Frank had so many things in his.
So many. And
So
Mike, yesterday
is
that
actually-
Troy Polamalu thing was just next level.
This is actually pretty cool. This is like in the museum. This is an audio meter that used to sit on the console on the Carson show. So the audio mixer would actually see his levels. It's made out of wood. It's like teak. Has a auto recording on the back. And this is pretty badass.
Well, do me a favor, and can you open the back to see if there is a bottle of alcohol that Ed McMahon used to put in there?
No, but my most, he probably did, but my most prized possession from the Tonight Show, I have two things that are really cool. This, which is almost falling apart. This is a microphone that was actually Doc Severance's at one point.
It's amazing.
For his actual.
Hell, is in his house.
How do you have this?
Well, my friend Tom Foley, who Rich knows from, and was a staff person at NBC, and he had these in his collection, and he gave them to me. And what's really cool about this, on the back of this, is the old NBC tag so that no one could steal it.
There you go.
Wow.
Well, they make these now that are crazy that you can't, but it's like they even got the original NBC 70s like logo on it. So this is kind of like, this is up there with the Bob Marker mic. The Bob Marker mic is probably you've used it, Rich. The mic I've brought in.
It's amazing.
The extending, but this is pretty, because this is literally from when they did mono Tonight Show.
Now, I'm still using my computer for the moment. You got 15 mic. You want to send one over here, Mike? I mean,
this thing right here, I don't even think I would know how to get this thing to function.
Yeah, could it work?
You probably could plug it in, but they used to work on a different voltage than the mics today. I think it would blow it up. And the inside is probably completely dissolved. I got to think it doesn't even function. But those are like two of my like really cool tonight. I have like 4 things from the Tonight Show, because that was my, like, for me, I worked on it in the 90s, and it's one of those.
Let's space it out. Okay, Mike, thanks for chiming in.
Love it.
It's a fun, long show, so we'll do it again tomorrow. Trent Dilfer is going to be our guest tomorrow. We'll talk some football. Thanks again to our friends at Crispy Chicken. Thanks again to Joey for putting the show together. Thanks to Joey Mulinaro. Thanks to Frank Caliendo. And thanks to you two guys. And everybody, be out there. Stay home if you can. Be safe. Be healthy. That'll wrap up this edition of the Rich Eisen Show here on Zoom.